Common Knowledge is brought to you by our friends at Game Grid Midvale, our local game store who puts players first with weekly competitive events, below market pricing, and the best customer service available. Check out their online inventory using the link in our description.
We are also sponsored by inkgaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all inked gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobber.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 87 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I am your host, Brandon, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Sean, the Lobert, the Stokes.
Is this illegal?
What?
We're partners in crime. I didn't know anything we were doing was illegal.
Yeah. We're part of the CCMTG podcast cabal.
We are funded by the mob, except not really.
Pretty much. The mafia gives us money to make podcasts about a super niche format within an already pretty niche topic, Magic the Gathering, to distract people from the ongoings of the mob. It doesn't work, so we don't get paid very much, but I'm just kidding. We're not affiliated with the mob, okay?
That dirty money from
Yeah, settle down, everyone. All our money it's been washed. Jason Bateman took it up into the Ozarks, cleaned it good.
I really want to say, dirty money from Spencer Howland, mob boss, is good stuff. Okay,
yeah, if Spencer Howland ever wins an invitational, he needs to be a Krenko mob boss, like, token. A Spencer mob boss. That'd be so funny. Oh, man. So how's your week been? What you been up to?
Good. We took a week off of the show, and I got caught up on pretty much everything. I didn't have the 5-card blind tournament looming, and since I didn't have any editing left to do, I got to play a bunch of Magic. I played about 40 games over the past 2 weeks.
Wow.
30 of them with Burn, 15 of them with Burn, 15 of them with Stompy, which is our topic, and then the rest just with Riffraff. And man, my win rate has gone up by like more than 10% since the banning. Since I wasn't playing Jeskai, my win rate was like 45%, and now it's like 60%. So I'm feeling good. I am getting all my ticks back.
Nice. I haven't been able to play much Magic at all the last week. It's just really busy. Finals are coming up. This is the busiest time of the year at the restaurant. Putting in lots of like 12, 13-hour days, long days. But my win rate has been pretty bad in Pauper for the games I have played. Yeah, Delvers aren't good. And I'm sad.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Yeah, I just kind of assumed that we were going to go back to square one, pre-foil coming into the format, kind of where we were before all that mess happened.
Except without Gush is the problem, right?
That's the problem. I just drastically underestimated how bad the deck is without Gush and Daze, too. Also overestimated how good accumulated knowledge is. That card is not great, especially not compared to Gush. Yeah. And it just, Delver decks can't keep pace with anything. Mantle of Tides kind of helps, but I think that if you're playing Mantle of Tides, you should just be doing something similar to Alex, my Pauper hero, who I can't remember his name all of a sudden.
Ullman?
Alex Ullman. Wow. I just totally drew a blank, and I'm like, how do I not know this person's last name? He's like my popper hero. Like him and the Maverick Girl, those two people are like the best of the poppers. And I'm like, how did I forget Alex's last name? I'm so ashamed.
It happens.
Yeah, I'm so tired. But I'm honestly, I am this close to buying Urza lands.
You should. Like,
This close.
I know.
I think it's clearly the best deck in the format right
It
now.
is.
And
Yes.
I just that basically just sums up everything I've ever felt about Tron in my life.
But this is what we've all been hoping for secretly over the last 3 or 4 years.
So
If Tron's the best deck, yeah, it just needs to get better.
Man,
I mean, the idea of a format where like none of the lands produce a bunch of mana and everybody's on this like even little playing field, like that feels more Pauper to me. But we're not at that spot yet. It is the best deck, but it's not unbeatable or anything. And
definitely not. Yeah.
Like if it gets bad, then burn and red deck wins. Just become more of a player, not too much.
I think that's sort of the thing about Tron, why it's not really a deck that I think will get banned. It's just there are ways to beat it right now. Tron's the best deck in the format, and like you said, there are archetypes that can really exploit that. And so just pick up one of those archetypes if you're not playing Tron, and eventually I think the format's going to kind of correct itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't really like to talk about bans anyway because they're not super helpful to anyone. They're just fun to talk about. You know?
We totally do like to talk about it. We do it all the time. I'm not gonna like pretend that we don't anymore. I like talking about bans and I look forward to them constantly.
But I mean, like, apart from them just being like fun to talk about and speculate on, what's going to happen, what's going to be next, like they really don't offer any strategic value at all to discuss them.
No,
you know?
Right? Yeah. If like in a Spike podcast, they don't like it doesn't add to like we talk a whole episode about it. Nobody's win rate is going to go up, but it's also like
to say though that on the Venn diagram of like Spike and what are the other things, Johnny and Timmy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what Johnny and Timmy is. I guess Spike and Casual. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
We're like right in the middle, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good spot to be where we can have an audience that appreciates all of it. And I know that we've been written and I've read the thing. I don't think I've responded, but people have been asking for a couple of like more casual, just go over a brew topics for the show. And I'll tell you, like, one of the reasons we haven't done it is there is a lot to cover, and choosing which brew is going to be part of the podcast is really tough. Like, do I just go over my own brew? Well, I have I have a bunch, but like, do I do my own? I feel like that's a little bit self-serving or whatever. Or do I go for, I don't know, like some random deck that looks like a brew that did well in a tournament?
I would love if people would send us their brews to talk about.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
And like test them a little bit beforehand at least. Because I know that like people will post on my Twitter or the Facebook or whatever, like, oh, this is my brew, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? But that's a lot different than like, I've tested this a lot and it's doing well. What do you think? Rather than like, I whipped up a deck list and I've never played a match with it. What should I do?
I don't know. Maybe that'll be a like a future stretch goal, or like if we ever get to a point where we want to make tiers within our Patreon, like a certain tier, you can submit a deck, and once a month we'll choose a deck list brew from a patron and do a whole show about it.
Yeah,
that might be fun. I don't know. Give us your thoughts, your feedbacks on what you'd like to see from that, and we can make it happen.
Yeah, because I know you guys are smart and making up cool things. Like,
I mean, apparently from the 5-card blind, yeah.
Yeah, you guys can figure stuff out.
Oh, hey, shout out. I want to shout out really quick. Speaking of the 5 card blind, buddy Zach, do you remember? You might
Yeah,
not. I don't know if you've met him.
I think so. Yeah.
We covered him in the Oasis when we did coverage for the Oasis Games Invitational. He was playing that awesome Domain Zoo deck.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, he was one of the folks that top aided, and I didn't realize that it was him.
Chid 3?
I can't remember. I don't know. He didn't tell me. He's just like, yeah, I top aided the thing, and I was like, that's really cool. I didn't realize that was you.
Yeah, when he sent in his deck list, I was like, hey, this is gonna win because it was the first one submitted with Burning Inquiry in it. And then like 7 other people submitted deck lists with Burning Inquiry in them or something like that. And it didn't quite measure up like I thought it did, but I was like, okay, somebody figured this out, and that's scary. Anyway, people are smart, and I know that we could do that to just cover some more deck lists. Anyway, we've been going on for like 10 minutes.
Okay, well, yeah, let's close the show. Is that not what you had in mind? You had something else in mind?
No, I'm hungry. We should do card of the week.
Card of the week.
Thanks, deep voice. Speaking of being hungry, why are you hungry, Sean?
Because our card of the week is Golden Egg. Golden Egg is 2 generic mana. It is an artifact food. When Golden Egg enters the battlefield, draw a card. It has the ability 1 generic, tap, sacrifice Golden Egg, add 1 mana of any color, and also 2 generic, tap, sacrifice Golden Egg, you gain 3 life. So it's a filter, like a one-time filter, or gain 3 life, that when it enters, you draw a card. So people have been using this in Boros.
Yeah, we're starting to see it taking the place of Alchemist Vial in Boros deck lists. And I think this card is just significantly better than Alchemist Vial. And I think that we kind of missed it in the set review as kind of like it's worse than Prism because it's a one-time effect to get your mana fixing.
Well, you can't blame us for missing it when Arkham's Astrolabe was a thing already. Like, why play a worse Prophetic Prism when Prophetic Prism wasn't even being played? So at the time, yes, we skipped over it. It was not relevant, but it is becoming relevant now.
I mean, yeah, but also I think that's one of the scenarios where actually taking in mind future bannings is relevant. Because I think everyone knew that eventually that card, Astrolabe, was getting banned, right? And then, so, that just might have been something for us to have considered more as like, hey, when Astrolabe gets banned, is Golden Egg going to be a player? Is that going to be better than Alchemist Vial? And I just don't think we even considered anything like that.
Well, I think our position on bans is that we're going to talk about potentials for the future, but we're not going to base any of our decisions on something that may not ever happen.
Total speculation, sure.
Yeah. So, I don't think we're ever gonna be like, hey, if this card gets banned, this is gonna be a thing. So yeah. I think it's fair that we, didn't give this much of a limelight, and now we are.
Yeah. Boom. But anyway, I think this card is just completely just better than Alchemist Vial. Alchemist Vial has that one-time effect of fogging a creature, and I think that in a lot of cases, gaining 3 life is just almost the same thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there'll be a bigger creature, and gaining 3 life won't be as good, but for the most part, it's just as good, if not better. Being able to okay, instead of Alchemist Vial on your core Skyfisher, I'm just going to gain 3 life, and you get an extra life out of the deal. But the real function of Alchemist Vial, I feel like, was just to be an extra hit, right? For your Skyfisher, your Glinthawks. You really weren't concerned about that combat effect. It was just, I needed an extra artifact that cantrips. And so we played Vial because that was the next best thing. And I think now Golden Egg is just better.
Yeah, I know one of the functions of Alchemist's Vial was to protect your Monarch. And so gaining 3 life is different in that aspect, but the amount of times that Alchemist's Vial actually functioned that way and like actually had a use, I want to say it was super super rare. Like people did it to me like 4 or 5 times over my lifetime of playing against that deck. Like I don't think it was very significant, and fixing your mana is definitely going to be more significant than that and more of an impact.
Well, and I think having access to additional mana fixing is a way to protect your Monarch token.
Okay.
You know, having that smoother mana set up in the early game, just meaning you're more consistent, you're able to get that board out, kill whatever creatures you need to. You're not ever going to be stuck between like, okay, well, I don't have double red, so I can't go like bolt or whatever. I think that in a lot of cases, that's just going to help you set up to protect the Monarch, and then later on, just having better mana. Well, maybe not later on, because the mana in the Boros decks aren't that bad. It's just they sometimes take a minute to get off the ground and establish that. So I think having extra mana fixing helps there.
Yeah. I think that basically covers the card, though.
Yeah. Golden Egg. Get them while they're hot. You can have them fried,
hard-boiled.
You can have them soft-boiled. You can have them scrambled. You know what? You can get really fancy. You can make a golden souffle.
Golden egg drop soup.
Ooh. Now we're talking. Get some MSG in there. Yum.
Side note, it bothers me how much larger that egg is than everything else. Like, whatever chicken was not expecting to lay an egg like 19 times as large as all of the other ones probably needs surgery at this point.
Didn't it come from a goose? Came from the golden goose.
Okay.
The golden goose laid the golden egg.
Yeah, and now it is not able to have children anymore because it laid an egg.
Thinking that it's the size of a regular goose. It lays golden eggs. Why can't it just be a big ass goose?
So then it's just got all these other tiny eggs, and then...
Well, no, because these eggs came from the other things, right?
Oh,
like, the farmer was picking all his eggs, and then he got to the golden goose, and then he got this golden egg.
Okay.
I can't imagine a goose, though. I'm imagining the golden egg was just found.
Okay.
Because I can't imagine taking an egg from a mother goose. Have you seen those things? They're evil.
They have teeth.
Yeah, they're the most wicked creatures of all the creations on this earth.
Even their tongues have teeth.
Oh, even their teeth have teeth.
Pretty much.
Geese are the worst. I've been chased by a goose. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. Let's not dwell on this anymore. I'm going to have nightmares. Let's go into the main topic.
Main topic.
All Thanks, right. Deep voice.
Our main topic is Stompy. I've gotten a fair bit of practice in with this. I actually got a 5-0 tournament finish with Stompy this week. I followed it up with an 0-5 tournament finish right after. So I rode that high for all of about, I don't know, an hour.
45 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, we brought it up at the beginning of the show in our intro where you're talking a little bit about Tron. So there are some archetypes that are in good position to take advantage of Tron being the top deck, and Stompy is at the top of that list.
Is it? I think Burn, like after my testing, I want to say that any Stonehorn Dignitary matchup is very hard for Stompy. Like,
really?
Stompy is a turn 5 deck. Like, it wants to kill you turn 5. Like, that's a good game, and Stonehorn Dignitary can come down turn 4 or faster than that, and they can just lock you out of the game. Like, that's
so you don't think Tron is a good matchup for Stompy?
I don't. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe we should rewrite our show notes and talk about Burn.
No. Stompy's like decently positioned, but I think it's being overplayed right now. I think maybe because of that misconception. Like its bad matchups are I think Tron and Boros, and that's a significant portion of the competitive of the competitive scene.
Oh yeah, that's got to be close to 40% of the meta. Those two decks.
Yeah, so you're not favored there, but you do stand a chance since you're going to be like using relic and stuff to stop those loops, and eventually you may get there. Like the games I won against Tron were they shut me down, and after like 7 turns of fogging me, they just ran out of things to keep fogging me with because I was able to like shut down their loop. But they got a Stonehorn down, they got a second Stonehorn down, they ghostly flickered, they ephemerated, and then finally they just gave it up. But that is really really rough. Before I want to talk about more of the matchups later on. So do you want to just get into the deck list?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just go. We'll just go through them. We'll name all the creatures in the deck list, and then we'll go back and we have notes on each one. So
Okay.
This is kind of just pretty stock deck list. So we're starting 17 forests, 25 creatures. We have 4 Burning Tree Emissaries, 4 Nest Invader, 4 Nettle Sentinel, 3 Curian Ranger, 3 River Boa, 4 Skargan Pit Skulk, and 3 Vault Scourge.
So just going down this list, Burning Tree Emissary is one of the cards that if you don't have a 1-drop in your opening hand, this makes that hand still keepable and can still stay up on that tempo, since you can turn 2 play your Burning Tree Emissary and then play another either Burning Tree Emissary or one of your 2-drops or even one of your 1-drops, as well as Savage Swipe. So Burning Tree Emissary, Savage Swipe is a great way to catch up, even if you're wasting 2 of that damage.
Yeah, I think Burning Tree Emissary is just... If this card is in a deck, it's just going to mean that that deck can do an unfair thing some percentage of the time. You know, any turn where they're able to go 1 to 2 Burning Tree Emissaries into anything else, it just creates super explosive draws, can end games really quickly.
Yeah, you just end up like, okay, turn 2, maybe you did play a creature, and then you played some Burning Tree Emissaries and followed it up with another creature, just like 8 power that you've deployed on turn 2, and then turn 3 you beat him low, and then maybe turn 4 you kill him, but that is pretty rare. One of our next creature is Nest Invader. I want to say this is one of the worst creatures in the deck. It does serve a purpose. It very much does serve a purpose. Those Eldrazi spawns are the reason that you play Nest Invader. They trigger Morbid, which I think is their primary use. That's what I use them for most of the time. So with Morbid, you can play Hunger of the Howlpack anytime you want. You don't have to wait until like you've gotten a disadvantage in combat or you've been able to use Savage Swipe to trigger Morbid. They're just really useful in that way.
I think the other really nice thing about Nest Invader is it's just another 2-drop that you can cast off Burning Tree Emissary really efficiently.
Yeah.
It can make use of that red mana that Burning Tree makes.
Yeah, otherwise, like, this may be better as, like, I don't know, Garruk's Companion, the green for a 3/2 trample.
Exactly. But I just don't think you can play that card alongside Burning Tree Emissary. It just creates too much inconsistency in a deck that is really dependent on coming out of the gates fast.
Yeah, like, me saying that it's the worst card in the deck does not mean I'm advocating for anybody to go and look for a replacement for this card. This is the best slot for this, the card for this slot. Like, the things that does is better than like a Wild Mongrel or something like that right now.
Yeah, and I think that's also just sort of that sort of just attributes to how powerful some of the creatures in this deck actually are. Because Nest Invader, it's not a bad card. It's 2 bodies for 2 mana. It's a 2/2, so it's already ahead of rate, right? When you're thinking that it's better than a Grizzly Bear, which is sort of the baseline for a 2-drop. So it does some good things. Like you talked about, the Eldrazi spawn can enable a lot of synergies in this deck, primarily getting Morbid for Hunger of the Howlpack. But also, this deck wants to be really mana efficient too. And having that Eldrazi spawn as a way to generate some extra mana for cards like Elephant Guide and stuff is also pretty important.
Yeah, like being able to play that 3-drop more consistently in a 17 land deck. That's what I'm talking about.
Gravy.
Next, there's Nettle Sentinel. This is your best 1-drop. I think anytime you have this in your hand, turn 1, this is what you are playing. It can attack through a lot of things that your opponents are going to try to do. Like they're going to play a Thraben Inspector, they're going to play a 1/1 or something like that, so that you can beat in. And then if you have any Skargan Pitskulks, drop those. It's not really that much of an issue to try to untap this. Like that's why it's even better early on. Like there's 1-land hands that you have enough like Nettle Sentinels and other 1-drops that you just get there and never find another land. Like Nettle Sentinel helps with that.
Yeah, and the next 1-drop, not the most powerful, but I think the most important 1-drop in the deck, is Curian Ranger. And that's basically what you were saying. Like, this card helps facilitate those really low land count hands that you can keep. You don't have to be quite as worried about hitting your 3rd land drop when you know that you can just Curian Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And just get it back. This card also untaps Nettle Sentinel. So I think this is one of the cards that contributes a lot to the high synergy draws that this deck can have.
Yeah, and a tip with playing Curian Ranger, you don't want to play it turn 1, even if you plan on using its ability turn 2 most of the time. Like, you play it if you don't have any other plays. But say I have the option of, I guess that doesn't work, but
I want the option of anything or Curian Ranger. You play anything else.
Yeah, maybe you drop Curian Ranger on the chance that they don't play a creature and it activates your Pitskulk. But the fact that you can play this, pick up the land and replay it, means that you would rather play this a later turn when you just can do that. It's basically free at that point.
Well, that's because Curian Ranger her ability isn't affected by Summoning Sickness, right?
Right.
You can do that the turn Curian Ranger hits the board. So you're able to play it as your 1-drop, say it's like turn 3, you play it, you have an extra mana, put that land back into your hand, untap your creature that just attacked, play that land back, cast your other 2-drop. And you're able to be mana efficient in that way.
Not irrelevant. Actually, like an important thing that Curian Ranger also does is you can untap your creatures on your opponent's turn. So just like a surprise, untap my River Boa, regenerate it, means that you can potentially just grab a creature for free or make them attack you a little bit slower, so now you're winning the race. Like I've put like the Elephant Guide that we talked about earlier on a creature and attacked with it, and they can't attack me back just because I have a Curian Ranger on the board. This is one of the cards that I cut down on every once in a while when I'm sideboarding, though.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like that more high variance card, right? It adds like a ton of synergy to your deck, and if you get it and it works, it's great. But it's not something you want to get flooded out on. It's really vulnerable to cards like Electrickery. That's one of the best things about this deck is it's an aggro deck that doesn't care about Electrickery. And, so just, removing those 1 toughness slots from your deck in certain places is important. But
yeah, it does hurt that it's not a 2/2 for Savage Swipe. And when that's really important,
when that's relevant, that's another reason Curian Ranger should get sided out when you really need your Savage Swipes to be on all the time.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever cutting all of them, but like shaving 1 or 2.
Yep.
That Nest Invader, when you are not worried about morbid triggering, like you're playing against a deck that's gonna kill a lot of your creatures, or you're boarding in additional fight spells, I take out my Nest Invaders. You want to take us into the next one?
Yeah. All right, so our next card is River Boa. For anyone who doesn't know what this one is, it is a 2/1 for 1 and a green, and it has green regenerate?
Yeah.
And Island Walk. It has Island Walk.
Yeah, I feel bad because I don't think we've been reading what these cards do each time.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we have. But everyone knows what all those other cards do. And the graphics will be up on YouTube. So I guess, go to the Constructive Criticism YouTube page, like and subscribe, and touch the bell icon so that the thing happens. And then you'll be able to watch this awesome video where Sean will have up all the cards on display for you to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my plan all along. Pimp the YouTube page. So, okay, what's going on with Riverboa? Because this is usually the slot that would be occupied by Silana Ledgewalker. So what do you think is going on between these two cards?
So I actually tested out Silhana Ledgewalker over Riverboa just a little bit after the banning. It didn't go into my, I didn't record stats on that since it was very much just testing. And I did find, like you suggested, the 2 power on Riverboa is way more important because of Savage Swipe. The Savage Swipe carries this deck a lot. It does real work. And Riverboa still has a lot of good things going for it, even though I don't think the island walk helps, but I don't think it's the evasion isn't the most important part. It's that this is really resilient, so that you can block with it and attack with it without having to care.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having to have an extra green mana up is a significant downgrade from Ledgewalker, just being hexproof. But again, this is another instance of card that isn't really affected by Electrickery.
Yeah.
If you're being smart about it and know what your opponent's capable of, it's really hard to find yourself in a situation where you can't protect Riverboa from Electrickery, whereas the Ledgewalker can get hit by the Electrickery. And what's even worse is, if it's like turn 2, you slam the Ledgewalker, and turn 3, try to put Elephant Guide on it, and they overload, you're in a lot of trouble. And so Riverboa can beat that as well. More points to that. I think anything that can beat 1 toughness whatevers in this format are just slightly better than anything that can't.
Riverboa also being in the deck is another reason why Carrion Ranger, over the course of this deck's life, has gone from 1 to 3 slots. It's been anywhere in there, and now we're at 3, and I think Riverboa is a big reason for that, of just you just want those extra spare mana when you can get them. Just for Riverboa.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep. Remember the Island Walk was a really big deal in the last format. It's kind of interesting because while I do believe that Riverboa is still an upgrade to Silana Ledgewalker right now in this deck, I don't know if we would have gotten there had it not been for the Astrolabe Ephemerate decks, because that's where Riverboa started really shining. It was so good in those matchups. It was really hard to kill. It was evasive. It didn't matter if they had Core Skyfisher to block because Riverboa had Island Walk. And so it's kind of interesting. I think that sort of era helped get Riverboas into the deck, and now I think people are just realizing it's really good and it's sticking around.
Well, yeah, and Savage Swipe came around, I think, and that was true then, and that it's true now, of just Riverboa became the thing, and it just also has that Island Walk slapped in there, so
because I don't know that the Island Walk is as relevant anymore.
Oh, it is not.
Right.
But it's still correct.
The reason it is like you said, the Savage Swipe. And so it's very possible that if Ephemerate and Astrolabe didn't get printed, but Savage Swipe did, it maybe takes a little bit longer for us to transition from outgo Ledgewalkers and put something in that takes advantage of Savage Swipe. I think this card's definitely the better threat in this slot.
Next, we have Skargan Pitskulk. Skargan Pitskulk is a single green for a 1/1 creature. If you dealt damage to your opponent this turn, it is a 2/2 creature. It comes in with a +1/+1 counter. It can't be blocked with creatures with less power than it. So first off, this is one of your best 1-drops. You don't play it turn 1, but it is still I would still want to say it's like one of the best one drops. Like Nettle Sentinel is best on turn 1, but later this is better. It's got 2 power for swipe, and it has that evasion when you pump it up. So like your opponent has all these creatures, maybe you have a Vines of the Vastwood, or you have Hunger of the Hellpack, Rancor, something like that, and all of a sudden they just can't block this at all. There's no chumping, there's no throwing a bunch of creatures in this, in front of this. It's just, oh, I 9 ya, you're dead.
Yep, I've been on the receiving end of 5/5, 6/6 Skargan Pit Skulks that I can't block. It just died for that reason. So it's pretty powerful. I also like that it synergizes well with Carrion Ranger, giving you something else to do with an extra 1 mana on turns.
Mm-hmm.
It just lets you be more mana efficient. Like on turn 3, it lets you play a relevant 1-drop and 2-drop all in the same turn.
Yeah.
All right, and the last creature on our list, we have 3 copies of the Vault Scourge. So this is 1 in a Phyrexian black for a 1/1 flyer with lifelink.
So this one feels a little bit weird, but it is very good. This is going to help you in the mirror for 1, like a lot. I think you just basically, I've baited my opponents into, having like a creature or something. I get their pump spells out of their hand, and then I just go all in on a Vault Scourge, like put everything on here, and it doesn't matter if they have a 9/9 creature, like my 4/4 Vault Scourge is going to race that. One ironic thing about this is it's not good against burn. For a lifelink creature,
Nope.
It is just a good way to turn every spell in their hand into a Searing Blaze, and their Searing Blazes into like a lightning bolt with a lava axe strapped to it for 2 mana.
Yeah, this card's not good against burn.
So I've been.
It also just like it's a 1/1, so it doesn't block any. It doesn't block their attacking creatures in a relevant way. It's just It's so unintuitive because you think, oh, flying and lifelink got to be good against burn, but nope.
Yeah, get that out of your deck. It is the only spell that like you can play off of Burning Tree's red mana, like just the red mana. You can jam in a Vault Scourge, which makes it really, really good at early turns.
Yep, it's a 1 mana spell to synergize with Carrion Ranger. It's really nice and efficient for what it's trying to do.
The evasion really helps get that damage in for Pitskulk as well. Like it does make it it makes it a really good 1-drop. Maybe not as good as the other ones, since you are more focused on dealing damage rather than like, okay, I got to get that lifelink early. So I still would go with like a Nettle Sentinel or something over this.
All right, so those are all the creatures. Now we'll kind of jump into the instants and sorceries. We've got 11, 4 Hunger of the Hellpack, 4 Savage Swipe, and 3 Vines of the Vastwood.
So I'm going to go in reverse order. Because the first thing I think people are going to notice is that people have shaved the number of Vines of Vastwood in the deck. And that's 100% right. Vines of the Vastwood is, I keep saying it is just Vines of Vastwood. It is just a protection spell most of the time. Like the burst damage is good, and it's and working as kind of like a kill spell when you're going into combat is okay, but most of the time you just want a Vines in your hand so that you can like Hunger of the Hellpack safely or something like that. Like keep attacking in with a River Boa even though they have, I don't know, a couple of burn spells.
It's just the kind of card that if it's in your deck, your opponent always has to respect it, because getting blown out by it is so bad.
Yeah, but you don't want 4 of them, since like they are going to respect it regardless, but it's like supplemental.
Yeah. You don't want to ever have like 2 in your hand at once, because you're still an aggro deck. You don't want to have all your mana held up all the time. You want to be jamming as much as you can. So having like just that one though for the turn where you're going for a Savage Swipe or something can just be really critical.
It does also have the weird function of you can shut down your opponent's like Ephemerate or Ghostly Flicker, something that they're pumping up their own creature. Your opponent is trying to Savage Swipe your creature. you vines their creature, they don't get the pump, they don't get anything, and they can't interact with that. So it does have implications, and it's a very good spell, but it does not deserve 4 slots.
Do you remember when I told you about this sweet play that my opponent did to me in Vegas?
Yeah.
Involving vines, and you're like, that doesn't work. Do you remember what that was? I don't.
They cast vines on your standard bearer so that they could cast a spell on their own guy, but
vines
that
says
doesn't work that way.
Opponent's control. So my well-wisher can't be targeted now by spells I control as the opponent of the person who casts Vines of the Basswood. That's how it worked. I just didn't question it. I just remember the judge. He stepped away from the table with the judge. The judge kind of was like, yeah, that's how that'll work. And then he came back and went, Vines on your standard bearer. And I went, oh, okay. If the judge said that works. I didn't even question it or like read the card or think. And then after I told Sean, and Sean's like, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. I've watched many a streamer be like, oh, sweet. Like, they've had a standard bearer out, like, Vines their guy, and then I tap all my mana, and crap. Alright, scoop.
They have a 4/4 standard bearer on an elephant. Oh, no. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of a weird, tricky interaction that has to do a lot with the wording of the cards. So just so none of my listeners ever have to get got by that like I did.
Next card, Savage Swipe. This is so important to this deck now. Like, I want everybody to understand just how insane Savage Swipe is. It is a sorcery. It says target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. If your creature has 2 power, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So it's a pump spell, and it's a kill spell. And most of the things in your deck are 2/2s or 2/1s. It is going to get the extra bonus, and then there's 1 less blocker, and then you're attacking with a 4 power creature. Like, for 1 mana, that is a lot. Like, 1 mana removal spells are good. 1 mana removal spells that pump previous to this don't exist.
Yeah. At least not in Pauper.
I mean, is there any outside of Pauper?
You know, now that you say, I guess I don't know. I guess I just assumed there were. Maybe not.
There might be like a build your own where like you bolt their creature and your guys get prowess or something like that, but
there's gotta be a give it a bonus fight that's uncommon. There's gotta be one.
I mean, fighting is not that big of a thing.
I mean, in limited it is.
Oh, I guess.
There's gotta be one that's like uncommon or something from limited, or one that's like 4 mana or something and it's just unplayable in Pauper anyway.
Oh, I mean,
there's gotta be one that exists, but there's not one that is like on this rate.
Yeah, there's Epic Confrontation, but it's not for 1 mana. That's my point. It's just like, this is insane. It's way undercosted. And it triggers Hunger of the Howlpack, our next card. Like, giving another morbid trigger. Hunger of the Howlpack is just a green for an instant. It gives a creature a +1/+1 counter, but if a creature died this turn, it gives it 3 +1/+1 counters.
Green lightning bolt.
Really, kinda. It's repeatable. You put it on your creature, and they just, if it's a 2/2 and you're able to resolve this, then even their galvanic blasts don't deal with your creature. This is one of the reasons why if you're planning for Stompy and you're trying to figure out, like, you know, in your mind how you should be thinking of this deck, it isn't just a bunch of 2 power creatures that attack really fast. Those creatures become giant thanks to this card and some of the other pumps. I've been attacking with 7-9 power creatures fairly consistently, 5 power creatures like it's nothing, all the time. Hunger the Hellpack and Savage Swipe are a mean combo.
Yep. They are very, very good. This is how you're going to lose to those, 5/5, 6/6 Skargan Pit Skulks that you can't ever block.
Exactly.
It's worth noting, though, that if you've hungered something and it's a 5/5, you're not going to get the buff from Savage Swipe.
So
You're just going to have to settle for a 5/5.
Luckily, most of the time you Savage Swipe first and then you hunger. So that turn you just attack with like a 7/7.
Sometimes you're going to top deck that Savage Swipe and they're going to have like a flyer that you have to kill. And you're just going to have to settle for killing it with a 5/5 and then attacking them for 5 instead of 7 again.
I mean, that's, yes, on the off chance you don't have a second creature that you're just
tough,
like...
You've got to do it. You know?
Oh, no.
Oh, so sad. Should we talk about the enchantments in the deck?
Heck yeah.
All right. So we have 3 copies of Elephant Guide and 4 copies of Rancor.
So first off, Elephant Guide, it is your like big payoff spell. You don't want to be doing this when your opponent has like kill spell mana up. Be really, really cautious with your Elephant Guides. If you have 3 mana up, they have a potential removal spell. Like maybe wait until you have an extra green up so that you can put it on your River Boa and not lose it or something like that. It will win you the game. Like even if they throw a bunch of creatures in front of your dude and it dies, the 3/3 is gigantic and that will win you the game. It's expensive though. 3 is a lot for this deck. The Carrion Rangers help, but there are plenty of games where you're never going to get past 2.
Yeah. I mean, between Carrion Ranger and Nest Invader making spawn tokens, those games aren't as common, but you're still pretty good chance of being able to cast the Elephant Guides if you have one in your opening hand. I guess my thing with it is it's what you said. It's just so hard to cast it, find a window to cast it. If your opponent's like savvy at all with the matchup, they're probably never going to let you, resolve Elephant Guide. They're going to, once you hit that 3 mana threshold, they're just going to always be trying to hold up Lightning Bolt or Scred or whatever removal spell they have if they can. And so it can have a bit of variance in that sense of just like it's hard to find that window where you can resolve the Elephant Guide.
Right. And again, it is one of those cards that you should be thinking about when you're sideboarding. It may not be fast enough since you're not going to reliably have 3 mana turn 3. This could just be like, I say like against Tron, where they're probably not going to remove your creature. They're just going to not give a crap and just make sure that there's no combat step for the rest of the game. Take out your Elephant Guides. But against like more fair decks or removal centric decks, like there's a lot of matchups this comes out against. But again, I don't know what you could possibly replace this with, since game 1 it is gonna just like win you a lot of games.
Yeah, this card has so much free win value behind it, where if your opponent's not ready for it, or if you just have the window and you jam it, or you get to a point where you're able to like have 4 mana somehow to have regen open and you cast it on a River Boa.
Mm-hmm.
Like this card hits a creature and resolves, you're probably winning that game.
That's true.
It's just, this is like the free win value for the deck.
And then lastly, we have Rancor. Rancor is a single green for an enchantment that gives your creature +2/+0 and trample. It also has, if the enchanted creature dies, return Rancor to its owner's hand. I don't know exactly how that's worded. I don't have it up in front of me. But that triggers after it hits the graveyard. So there's a chance there for your opponent to exile it if they so choose. Not that anybody's bringing in graveyard hate for a Stompy deck.
Also relevant, like, it has to be resolved on the creature.
Yeah.
So if the creature dies in response, the Rancor just goes to the graveyard. It's gone.
And that does happen a lot. Like, that's everybody's favorite thing to do. You've Rancored once, second time they know it's coming, and they've got a lightning bolt for your creature, and they try to get you. That's one of the cases in which you want a Vines of Vastwood in your hand. Or
Raincore's really nice because it's 1 mana, so it's super easy to have a Vines of the Vastwood up.
yeah, one of my favorite things to do is put Rancor or Elephant Guide on an Eldrazi spawn. Another reason why Nest Invader actually does belong in the deck, even though it's not the best. Like against control matchups or whatever, you turn that other creature into like a real threat that can push through damage. Like Rancor on anything is going to push through damage. It's going to make your Skargan Pitskulks unblockable, pretty much, right?
Oh, Rancor, yeah.
Hmm.
My head was still on the Eldrazi spawn, and I was like, what? What are you talking about? But yeah, no, Rancor on Skargan Pitskull, because that card's basically unblockable unless your opponent casts Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, and then you may have to cast a second Rancor or something.
Ooh, that sounds like a rough ask.
Side note, I've been seeing a lot of blue-black Delver.
I haven't seen a lot of Delver, period.
I mean, just in leagues, I think a lot of people are just testing it out. Like the Thought Scour version, it's a lot slower.
Turbo Anglers, yeah.
Yeah, with the Sultai Scavenger and stuff. It's not scary. Like, it is pretty easy to beat. At least it is when you have a bunch of extra creatures for their edicts and stuff.
What? Yeah, we said at the beginning, Gush made that deck, and there's no Gush, there's no that deck. That deck is just forever like tier 1.5 unless something else comes along. Another really efficient draw spell. All right, so are we ready to move on to the sideboard?
Yes.
Boom, sideboard time. 3 Epic Confrontation, 4 Gleeful Sabotage, 3 Gut Shot, 2 Relic of Progenitus, and 3 Weather the Storms.
So Epic Confrontation, and I'm just gonna lump that in with Gut Shot. Sometimes it's just great to like all of a sudden you become a deck with 11 removal spells. Like against elves. Elves is a horrible matchup, and you put in all of these cards, and you might get there.
Gut Shot's super important for Standard Bearer, which we kind of addressed earlier, being just so bad for this deck. Like, probably one of the best cards to sideboard in against this deck is Standard Bearer. So having Gut Shot is pretty nice. It's kind of a bummer, though, because Gut Shot does not kill anything else in decks that would have a Standard Bearer.
Yeah, I would say that's why you should favor Epic Confrontation in that matchup. Like, you're going to get there with your Savage Swipes and your Epic Confrontations. I don't think... Unless you're playing, like, Fairies or something where it's going to preserve a spell that you need to resolve, probably lay off of the Gut Shots.
Okay, so just Epic Confrontations.
Yeah, 7 removal spells for an aggro deck I think is more than fine. Next we've got 4 Gleeful Sabotage. Affinity's a thing. You want free wins against Affinity, you bring these in. Anybody playing Journey to Nowhere, you need to bring in your Gleeful Sabotages in against. A lot of the time they're going to have artifacts that you can also blow up. But really, having this to blow up an artifact in addition to that other card, I think can get you there a lot of the time.
All right, next we've got 2 Relic of Progenitus.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a pretty straightforward inclusion. Probably not a lot that even needs to be explained, right, about this card? Deal with Tron loops and stuff.
Real quick, I'm just going to read. So Gleeful Sabotage is a sorcery that is a colorless and a green. If you tap, it has Conspire, so if you tap 2 green creatures in addition to its cost, you can copy the spell when you cast it. You can only do that once, but it says destroy target artifact or enchantment. Epic Confrontation is also a green and a colorless. It gives your creature +1/+2, and it fights another creature an opponent controls. And then Gut Shot, of course, is just a Phyrexian red to do 1 damage, instant speed.
Yep. So those were some freebies. If you want to know what the rest of the cards were in this episode, got to go to that YouTube page.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better about it. But
I feel like sometimes we're really good at it, and sometimes we're lazy about it. So we can be better at it. So Relic of Progenitus.
Yeah.
A single colorless, or sorry, generic. A single generic mana for an artifact with tap. A player exiles a card from their graveyard, or is it an opponent?
A target player exiles a card from their graveyard.
Exiles a card from their graveyard. Or one, tap it, exile all cards from all graveyards, draw a card.
Nope. It's a generic sacrifice it. You don't have to tap it for the second ability.
Oh, you
to
right.
exile.
Yep, you right. That's a big part of what makes this card so good. You're able to tap it and still always have that activation held up for 1 mana.
Yeah.
Boom.
So Relic is your anti-Tron card. It serves purposes in other matchups, but that's really what it's doing.
So last thing we've got are 3 copies of Weather the Storm. So remember how we talked about Vault Scourge not being good against burn?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this card's really good against burn.
Yep. It's just like a 3-for-3, swap those in and out, and you're done sideboarding.
Yeah. Weather the Storm is a 1 and a green for an instant. It has the Storm mechanic, which copies it for each spell cast prior to it in the turn, and it says gain 3 life. So, could you imagine if you're playing against burn and you go Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Weather the Storm. 15 life, put 8 power on the board. Go, burn deck. Try to do a thing.
That is 8 cards, so that checks out. Turn 2, you can definitely do that.
8 cards? You mean 5 cards? Oh, because you need the 2 lands?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 7 cards. 2 lands, 4 Burning Tree Emissaries.
Oh, yeah. I can count.
Weather the Storm. Ha-ha! I outmathed the Lobert.
He played a Nettle Sentinel turn 1. Sure.
Well, I mean, you had to draw stuff, but you don't
Optimals.
Optimals, yeah. Yeah, this is just your burn tech. Pretty good.
Yeah, I've never brought it in for anything else.
You would never bring it in if you felt like it was a racing situation? Like, no. I can gain extra life, because you just rather have threats.
I would rather have threats. Yep.
Boom. There you go. You heard it here first. Rather have threats.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So should we get into some matchups before we close out the show?
Yeah. We did a bunch of these at the start of the show, but I just wanted to say, I did mention Boros is tough. They have all of those instant speed removal spells, which makes it hard, especially since they still do play like Core Skyfisher and some other blockers. So you're trying to expend resources to even get through, and then they're stopping you with additional burn spells. In addition to Journey to Nowhere is just tough. If you have an enchantment on your creature, even if you can get your creature back, it could just be gone. And then Prismatic Strands is really, really hard. It's just going to blank you for 2 turns and be a one-sided removal spell, since you're basically forced into attacking because you're afraid of the game going long, since they're going to win that too. Yeah, Tron's really, really hard because Stonehorn Dignitary, same thing for Familiars. Familiars just wrecked me because they had a Stonehorn. Burn your favored. No, it's not like a landslide. It is it's a tough, I have to think a while before I make a play in that matchup. What are some other decks? Elves.
So, Elves, I think you're not favored in.
Right. It's winnable.
Yeah.
It's not abysmal, but you're not favored, since
Viridian
Longbow.
Savage Swipe helped a lot with that. I think old iterations of this deck not having any good removal game 1 made it really, really tough. But having Savage Swipe now puts you into, you've got winnable draws.
Yeah, it's not just that they have Well-Wisher and the other gain life when things enter card.
Their threats get bigger faster.
Yeah, they're 3/3. Oh man, I can't remember any card names. Lissalana Huntmaster, the 3/3 that makes tokens. The tokens are trouble, but also the 3/3 body.
Mm-hmm.
Elvish Vanguard is just this colossal creature that you can't really attack through or even fight after a couple of turns. So that can cause you problems. Timberwatch Elf, that's just going to kill you. And then they have a lot of... they have the potential to just throw creatures in front of yours. Like, they have their own Nettle Sentinels that they can block with. So, like, you really have to slow them down and get in quick to win that matchup, since there's no way you can get those the removal spells, enough removal spells to completely stop them. And then they do have the inevitability of they're going to play Verdian Longbow, and they're going to kill all your creatures over the course of like 2 turns.
Yep.
Boggles is hard. Not, like, you do have the tech for it, but they can just gain like a crap ton of life. It's a race, and there's certain draws that Boggles is just going to win there. Like, none of these are awful. And I want to say against the field that you are favored. Like, what's it called? Anything with an edict in it, you're good. Like, there's enough just throwaway creatures that you don't care. You just win against white, black, and mono black.
Those Scion tokens feel real good against edict.
Blue-black control is really good. You're just too fast for that deck. Delver, you have a good matchup against Delver. Affinity, I can't say. I think I've been about 50-50 with that deck. They have a lot of beefy creatures that are going to give you problems, but Affinity just has problems if you blow up anything, and I don't know. I just haven't had that many problems with Affinity, but I don't think it's great. Like, in my head, I'm like, okay, this should be bad, but it just works. I can't explain it. Maybe it's just, it is bad. I've just had luck.
Yeah, that could be. Because I can see how this deck could have some problems, but Affinity is one of those decks that stumbles on itself a lot, and Stompy is just sort of designed, like, its nature is to sort of take advantage of decks that stumble.
Yeah. So I did say that it's favored against the field, and then I did just list off like a bunch of decks that it's not favored against. I can't recommend this deck, honestly. Like, it is popular, but
I don't think I can either.
Yeah.
Not after talking with you today, especially.
It's just very synergistic. It can get a lot of wins. It's just going to be really fast, but there are a lot of bad matchups when I'm looking at it. I think Burn and Edict decks are the real big good ones. Oh, and Delver, which is, falling out of favor. Anyway, I think that basically covers it. Do you have any other things you want to mention?
No, I think this would be a good point to wrap it up.
End time.
All right, well, that's the show. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Common Knowledge. Again, big thank you to all of our great sponsors at inkgaming.com and Game Grid Midvale. Check out their online store in the link below, and don't forget about that coupon code CCMTG10, good for a 10% discount on all Ink Gaming supplies and accessories. You can find the show on PureMTGO.com, as well as the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel. You can also send us an email if you'd like to at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. We love your emails. We love reading them. You can find the show on Twitter at CKPodcastMTG, as well as our ever-growing Facebook group, Common Knowledge. And Sean, where can the listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Lobbert8, that is Lobbert and the number 8, as well as YouTube. You can find me if you just search for Lobbert. I have videos of me playing Pauper, usually Pauper Leagues there, so check that out.
Boom, and you can find me also on Twitter at bclark_CK. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye forever.